In the autumn of 1878, the small settlement of Hunter's Crossing, nestled deep within the Adirondack wilderness of upstate New York, was home to fewer than 200 souls. Founded in 1823 by Presbyterian settlers, led by Reverend Josiah Hunter, the town still lived under the spiritual guidance of his grandson, Reverend Samuel Hunter, who presided over the weathered wooden church at its heart. What happened that October has been deliberately obscured by time and those who wished it forgotten. Official records speak only of a tragic accident involving 4 students. But the truth, pieced together from surviving letters, diary entries, and witness testimony, reveals something far more disturbing. Tell us from where are you watching this video by writing in the comments so that we can know how far our videos are reaching, and do subscribe so that you keep getting regular thrilling stories that are to come next. The Hunter's Crossing Academy served the settlement's educational needs with 23 students aged 7 to 17. 4 older students had formed a particularly close bond. Martha Whitmore, aged 16, her younger sister Constance, 14, their cousin Rebecca Thorne, also 16, and Thomas Cray, 17, whose family had arrived the previous spring. They were exemplary students, well regarded by their families, showing no signs of the darkness soon to envelop them. The first sign of trouble came on October 15th, when their teacher, Miss Adelaide Morse, noted that the 4 had arrived in a most peculiar state of excitement. They claimed to have discovered something during their morning forest walk, a sign from the Almighty himself. When pressed for details, they became evasive, whispering among themselves and glancing toward the dense surrounding forest. Miss Morse, a sensible woman not given to flights of fancy, recorded growing unease in her journal. The children seemed to have formed a secret understanding, she wrote on October 17th. They move with unusual coordination, as if responding to signals I cannot perceive. When one looks up from studies, the others do the same, all at precisely the same moment. The mystery deepened on October 22nd, when young Constance confided in her mother about finding a place where the trees grow in perfect circles, and the very air seems to sing with the voice of angels. The girl claimed they had experienced a profound religious revelation showing them the true pattern of creation itself. Mrs. Eleanor Whitmore was initially pleased by what seemed evidence of her daughter's growing faith. However, concern quickly replaced satisfaction as she observed disturbing changes in Constance's behavior. The once chatty girl had become unnaturally quiet, spending hours staring toward the forest, lips moving silently. When asked what she was thinking, Constance would simply smile and say, "The pattern, Mama. I can see the pattern now." Similar changes manifested in the other 3. Martha began waking before dawn to stand motionless at her window until sunrise, eyes fixed on the tree line. Thomas developed an obsession with arranging his belongings in precise geometric patterns, becoming agitated if anyone disturbed them. Most disturbing was Rebecca, who had begun speaking in what her family assumed was Latin, though the local minister could not identify the language. On October 25th, Reverend Hunter decided to investigate. Accompanied by 2 respected townsmen, he ventured into the forest. What they found would haunt him for the remainder of his days. In his private diary, discovered after his 1902 death, Hunter described finding a clearing roughly 30 feet in diameter, surrounded by trees grown in an unnaturally perfect ring. The ground bore symbols, carved or burned into the earth in patterns that seemed to shift when observed directly. At the center stood a stone formation arranged in complex geometric patterns that created an almost hypnotic effect. When I attempted to step closer, Hunter wrote, I was overcome by profound vertigo, as if the ground beneath my feet was moving. More disturbing were the sounds, a low humming, not unlike bees, but somehow more purposeful, seeming to emanate from the earth itself. Within this sound they could distinguish what seemed like voices speaking in an unknown language. Hunter immediately forbade the students from entering that forest section. His prohibition had little effect. Townspeople reported seeing the 4 walking toward the woods before dawn, returning only after dark. When confronted, they claimed no memory of these excursions, though they bore evidence of prolonged outdoor time. Miss Morse's late October journal entries revealed escalating alarm. Their academic performance has improved dramatically, but unnaturally. They complete mathematical problems far beyond their previous abilities, and their compositions demonstrate impossible sophistication for their age. Most disturbing is that their handwriting has become nearly identical. The teacher noted increasingly strange behaviors. The students exhibited perfect synchronization. When one reached for a pen, the others followed suit. Their eyes had taken on unusual brightness, particularly in dim light. Crisis came on November 2nd when Mrs. Whitmore discovered her daughters standing together in their bedroom at midnight, facing the window with wide-open eyes but appearing asleep. When she tried to wake them, they turned toward her in perfect unison, their eyes briefly reflecting lamplight like nocturnal animals. "They looked at me, but I did not feel my daughters were truly seeing me," she wrote. "There was intelligence there, but not the intelligence I had known since birth. Something older, something that understood things my daughters could never have comprehended." By November 5th, the entire community recognized something was gravely wrong. The four moved as a group, rarely speaking to outsiders, and when they did interact, it was with eerie, calculated politeness. Parents kept younger children indoors, and several families requested additional prayer services. Reverend Hunter confronted the students on November 7th, asking them to remain after lessons. His diary records the session in increasingly erratic handwriting. They spoke willingly of encountering messengers of the divine order in the forest, beings who had revealed the true structure of existence, a cosmic pattern governing all matter and energy. Once perceived, this pattern could never be unseen. Through contact with these entities, they had gained the ability to perceive higher dimensions directly. As they spoke, Hunter wrote, their voices took on odd resonance, seeming to come from around them rather than from them directly. More troubling was how they often spoke in unison, even when I directed questions to only one. When asked about their changed behavior and appearance, young Thomas looked directly at the Reverend with distinctly luminous eyes. Martha explained that the preparation process involved biological optimization. They were being made ready to serve as permanent conduits between worlds. The students then demonstrated their abilities, moving in complex coordinated patterns around the room with geometric precision while humming in harmony. The sound was unnaturally resonant, seeming to vibrate within the building's very walls. "The effect was hypnotic," Hunter recorded. "I felt drawn into their movement pattern. For a moment I almost perceived what they claimed to see, vast structures extending beyond the physical world. But the sensation was accompanied by such profound wrongness that I forced myself to break away." When Hunter asked if they still considered themselves human, their answer, delivered in perfect unison, haunted him forever. "We are becoming what humanity was always meant to be." Hunter immediately contacted county authorities, but before help arrived, the four students vanished on November 10th. Despite locked doors and windows, posted guards, and families taking precautions, all four disappeared without trace. No unlocked exits, no departure sounds, no tracks. A dawn search focused on the mysterious clearing, now dramatically changed. The geometric earth patterns glowed with phosphorescent light visible in daylight. The stone formation had grown more complex with additional stones in inexplicable configurations. Most disturbing was the intensified sound, no longer humming, but a sustained cry that seemed to convey profound sadness and terrible hunger. Searchers found no trace of the students, but several experienced disturbing effects. Lifelong wilderness dwellers became disoriented, unable to maintain direction in familiar terrain. Others reported vivid hallucinations, geometric patterns superimposed over natural landscape, voices speaking unknown languages. Dr. Marcus Webb, arriving from Albany, examined affected searchers. His medical notes describe symptoms impossible to categorize: severe neurological disturbance including non-responsive dilated pupils, elevated heart rates, and temporal displacement, difficulty maintaining time awareness. As the search continued, Hunter's crossing deteriorated rapidly. The forest crying grew louder and more complex, taking on musical quality. Children experienced nightmares of vast geometric structures. Adults reported sleep difficulties, plagued by dreams of being observed by entities beyond perception's edge. 3 more residents vanished without explanation: 62-year-old widow Dorothy Henley, 9-year-old Peter Sullivan, and solitary trapper James Morrison. Like the students, they left no departure traces from locked homes. On November 20th, authorities evacuated the remaining population. The official reason was disease outbreak, but the true motivation was growing fear that whatever had taken the students continued expanding its influence. As the last wagon departed, witnesses reported seeing figures moving among abandoned buildings, tall, thin shapes, walking with the same eerie coordination that had characterized the missing students. Official records end with Sheriff William Bradley's evacuation report, citing contaminated water sources. No mention was made of missing residents or strange phenomena. However, unofficial accounts continued circulating for decades. Hunters and trappers reported finding the settlement in impossible preservation. Buildings that should have collapsed remained standing, interiors exactly as left on evacuation day. More disturbing were reports of lights moving through empty houses at night and voices calling from forest depths. In 1892, a geological survey team found the forest clearing had expanded to nearly 200 feet diameter, with correspondingly complex earth patterns. They discovered evidence of recent human habitation in abandoned buildings, dust tracks suggesting people had moved through, and mathematical calculations carved into academy walls that surveyors couldn't decipher. Team leader Professor Ernest Whitman noted the area's profoundly unsettling effect. Several members experienced vertigo and disorientation near the expanded clearing. One claimed seeing coordinated human figures gliding through the forest. Whitman's final entry was ominous. "We have completed mapping and will not return. Whatever happened here has not ended and may be spreading. I have recommended indefinite quarantine." The recommendation was heeded. In 1894, New York State quietly purchased the land, designating it a protected natural preserve with restricted access, yet accounts continued surfacing. In 1901, trapper William Morse claimed to have sheltered in an abandoned house during a storm. He was awakened by children's voices singing hymns. Looking out, he saw 4 young people in the central square, faces turned starward. Though appearing teenage, something about their posture suggested vast age and alien intelligence. They sang in perfect harmony, but in no language I had heard, Morse wrote. When they finished, they turned toward my shelter, and I saw their eyes glowing with phosphorescent light. They smiled, the same smile on all faces, and I felt such terror I hid until morning. Dr. Sarah Mitchell's 1908 botanical research notes describe vegetation taking geometric growth patterns, with trees and shrubs arranging themselves in complex mathematical relationships, mirroring the mysterious clearing patterns. She found fresh footprints in sets of 4, identical in size and spacing, forming geometric patterns through the forest, luminescent prints glowing faintly in dim forest light. Father Michael O'Brien's 1923 investigation provided the most detailed later account. He found buildings in perfect condition despite decades of exposure. No peeling paint, rotting wood, or rusting metal. Interiors remained exactly as left, with fresh food in pantries and ticking unwound clocks. The entire settlement exists in temporal suspension, Father O'Brien wrote. Time itself has halted within these boundaries, preserving everything exactly as it was that November day in 1878. Father O'Brien encountered the 4 students, now appearing as young adults moving with fluid grace, their fully luminous eyes casting visible light beams. When they spoke, their harmonized voices created mathematical ratios producing otherworldly overtones. They welcomed him by name, though unintroduced, pleased to have a visitor who could comprehend the magnitude of the great work. They explained their role as guardians of the convergence point, maintaining dimensional barrier stability between our reality and the higher realm they had learned to perceive. At the forest clearing, now encompassing several acres, Geometric earth patterns had evolved into a complex mandala extending infinitely inward toward a central point existing in more dimensions than human eyes could process. At the center was a tear in existence itself, through which Father O'Brien glimpsed vistas of impossible beauty and terror, vast mathematical structures given physical form, geometric entities existing in spaces with more than 3 dimensions. The students offered him the same transformation, promising he could join their eternal vigil and gain knowledge, making theological mysteries seem childish. Though tempted, something within him recognized that acceptance would mean the end of human existence as he understood it. They exist beyond morality, beyond comprehension, beyond any hope of human accommodation, Father O'Brien concluded. The 4 students have become something no longer human in any meaningful sense, yet also more than human, servants of a cosmic order so vast our entire universe is but a single point within its infinite structure. After 1924, when the area was reclassified as military reservation, official records ceased entirely. However, unofficial accounts continued sporadically. WW-2 pilots reporting unusual atmospheric phenomena, 1950s government scientists conducting classified research, local residents hearing strange harmonious singing carried on the wind. The most recent documented encounter occurred in 1987, when lost hikers stumbled upon the preserved settlement. They found 4 young adults with cold crystalline beauty, whose light-emitting eyes made them clearly visible in forest darkness. These guardians offered to show them the convergence, promising answers to all existence questions. The hikers felt almost irresistible compulsion to follow, but one veteran recognized mortal danger and convinced the others to flee. Their voices followed us for miles, he later recounted, promising knowledge and transformation and eternal purpose. Today the area remains officially closed, designated as Wilderness Preserve with restricted access. Satellite imagery shows only dense forest canopy, though occasionally captures unusual geometric patterns in tree growth, vast spirals and mathematical arrangements suggesting some organizing force beneath forest cover. The haunting question is not what happened to the 4 students, but what they became, and whether they continue their mysterious purpose in the Adirondack depths. Evidence suggests they achieved immortality through transformation, becoming permanent guardians of incomprehensible forces. Perhaps more disturbing is that their vigil may not be eternal. Visitors mention the guardians speaking of the Great Convergence as future event, preparing humanity for transformation that will eventually encompass the entire world, reshaping reality according to geometric patterns they've learned to perceive. The cry that gave Hunters Crossing its name continues echoing through decades, a sound of longing, transformation, and purposes too vast for human comprehension. Whether it represents warning or invitation may depend on whether humanity is ready to confront the possibility that we share existence with intelligences having plans for our species extending far beyond imagination. Have you heard whispers of similar incidents in remote corners of our country? Do you think those 4 students chose correctly in accepting transformation? Would you have courage to walk away if such knowledge were offered? Or would the promise of understanding reality's true structure prove too tempting to resist? The forest keeps its secrets, but sometimes, on quiet nights, when wind moves through trees in patterns seeming almost too purposeful to be natural, we might wonder if those secrets wait for the right moment to reveal themselves to the world once again.